Live. There we go. Okay, got it. Okay, she said go, and it said that we were live, so yay. Oops, I was doing all this other stuff and lost mine. Sorry, 1 minute, y'all. Okay. Hello, welcome to this month's CMC Chat. This is a chance for those of you who are thinking about attending Coastal Magic Convention in February to see a bit of what you can expect during our weekend. And it's a chance for those of you who have already registered and plan to be with us in Daytona to get to know some of the amazing featured authors who will be spending the weekend with us. Today, we're going to celebrate National Wine and Cheese Day. We're going to do this by pairing up our authors' books with drinks and or snacks they feel goes best. Might be wine, might not be, but we're looking forward to all the yummy snackish ideas and pairings they've come up with. To start us off, we're going to let our authors give a brief introduction and share who they are and a little bit about what they write. Then we'll get into the fun. You want to go ahead and get started, Winnie? Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Winnie Winkle. I write science fiction comedy and funny urban fantasy. Back in the day, I wrote some paranormal romance as well, but I haven't written one of those in a while. Most of my characters do drink and occasionally get into shenanigans. They don't always remember to eat, so I guess I'm channeling my 20s. I started writing in 2018 is when I published my first book, and I have 19 titles out now. I do write a little bit of nonfiction under J.S. Netwall, but the majority of my work is fiction under Winnie.
Thank you. Kilby, you want to go next?
Hey everyone, I'm Kilby Blades. I write contemporary rom-com. My current series is firefighter rom-com, which I'm really loving because there are a lot of pranks and hijinks that happen at a firehouse. I love having been invited here today because I love food and wine and alcohol. I used to be a food, wine, and travel writer. So something that I do with every one of my books is I have a recipe card that's a bonus. So I'm really excited to be talking about the food that inspired my books today. I've also written I've written a chef once. I wrote The Heir to a Lemon Fortune. So a lot of my characters, I have a guy who's a farmer now. He's a peach farmer and he supplies peach for the local moonshine, the local peach moonshine. So love to tie food and drinks into my books, and I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, and then Dakota.
First, Kilby, I have to tell you that I live in a real rural area in South Carolina, and my landlord a few years ago had made moonshine and made some peach, and it was so good. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. All right, I brought some show and tell, folks, because I wanted to explain why I look like this and my author photo looks like this. And the reason, and I'm going to share, I have an illustrator, and one of the, well, before I do that, first let me say that this persona writes literary fiction for a completely different audience and a completely different genre and a completely different name. But this gal right here, she writes romantic comedies that are fun and rambunctious and just a little bit naughty. But I'm going to show you how I came up with this image. Let me grab my show and tell and open it so that I can share it with you. Allow. Okay, so this is me in my 20s, right over there. There, over there. Well, you can tell which one I'm in my 20s. And then this one right here is the what the publisher of my other pen name likes to use in the press photos a lot. And so the illustrator took these two and combined them and came up with this. And so that's that's why. But even though I'm not this age anymore, that gal, she still lives right in here, and she comes out of my fingertips when I type. And so that's how that's why I look like this. But is that me? It is. It's just that I'm not that young anymore. and these are the romantic comedies I write. And what I'm trying to do, my cowboys are actually, these are really just small town romances, because my cowboys have swapped out ranching for small town living. So you'll see my hashtag is non-ranching cowboys. I'm trying to start a thing, because we all love cowboys, but we don't necessarily want to hang out on the ranch. And so that is why, I call my cowboys non-ranching cowboys.
Super cute. I
Awesome.
love that picture. If you subscribe to your newsletter, then you're already seen that little story. I love the picture on the left, the vintage picture. It was just beautiful in black and white. It really drew my eye. So
Thank you.
love that.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with the first question in the spirit of National Wine and Cheese Day, and just ask if you have any characters that you feel like would definitely celebrate National Wine and Cheese Day. And then if you don't, and you just want to share, you know, something that they might, you know, drink, a character, something they might drink or enjoy. Okay. Kilby, you want to start us off?
I will say that every single one of my characters would celebrate National Wine and Cheese Day, because every one of my characters is a foodie in some way. I have a character called Forrest Winters, who he's a firefighter, actually he's a federal fire marshal, and he has made it a point to know every single place that has free food around town. So like if somebody in town, this is in Green Valley, were celebrating National Wine and Cheese Day, he would know exactly where the celebration was happening, and he would be there and he would be chowing down. So Forrest is my favorite chow hound.
Dakota?
Yeah, and I brought a lot of show and tell today, so I hope that's okay.
Love
No worries.
Okay, but absolutely 100%, my readers would definitely participate, but they might not be drinking wine, because my cowboys are really all about beer, not in all of the books, but certainly in my Bold Texan. And I have my characters drinking Lone Star beer because they bill themselves as the national beer of Texas. But being a native Texan, if you were to open our refrigerator and look inside, you would find Shiner Bock, because that is also made in Texas, in Shiner, Texas, and they call themselves the cleanest little city in Texas, because they have clean streets and cold beer, and it is a really yummy beer. So I would say that in many of the books, they also drink Shiner Bock.
Maybe?
Well, I would say in this book, which is Bongo and Delilah Breaks Daytona, it's about two women in their 40s who are besties, and they would definitely, completely and totally be down for Wine and Cheese Day and Tuesday. And, you know, some obscure person they've never met's birthday. And while they're at it, you know, a couple of tequila shots probably wouldn't hurt. So when the book starts out, Delilah is actually a bartender, and they end up having a first contact with an alien in the parking lot of the bar that she works at, and that's the beginning of a bestie road trip with an unexpected third wheel. And I like the idea that there's a great deal of camaraderie between these two women, because by the time you're in your 40s, you're pretty set on who you are as a person. And these women are not alike, but they are each other's ride or die. And it's really fun to write very different personalities that love to party together and know where all the bodies are buried. So yeah, they would definitely be my candidates for Wine and Cheese Day.
And so throughout the chat, I want to say I read a book by each one of you. And so I'm going to talk about Kilby really quickly, because I read It Takes a Villa. And first of all, I had no idea that there was like that, and it, like that they were about lemons as much as they were. And I am a huge fan of anything lemon, so I was really excited. But I was like, okay, I'm going to do all non-alcoholic stuff unless I can find a bottle of white wine that mentions lemons. And I was about to give up, and I picked one up, and I found one that had Meyer lemon in it. This Prophecy Sauvignon Blanc. So So I ended up having a glass of wine. It's your fault, but it's delightful. And I paired it with goat cheese. So that was my pairing for your book. So I wanted to share that.
That's a really good pairing. That is one of my, so I've recently gone vegan. I am struggling with my lack of like eating my regular cheeses, but Sauvignon Blanc and goat cheese is a longtime favorite of mine.
That's pretty cool.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of come circle to you all and talk a little bit about, so I know like nowadays I feel like so many people, if they're gonna work or do any sort of work at a desk, it's like, okay, I gotta have my water, my backup water, my soda, my tea, my coffee. So I'm just curious, what I don't have the question in front of me. What kind of snacks or drinks do you like to, if at all, have when you are working? If you would like to share there, so it doesn't have to be alcohol. Definitely could be just whatever general snacks and drinks you like. Winnie, I think I started with you already first, but I'm gonna start with you again. Go ahead.
Contrary to what probably lots of people think, I never ever drink when I'm writing. Because I'm a pantser, and the couple times that I've tried to write buzzed has definitely been Backspace City, baby. It's just, it doesn't flow right. But I am a snacker when I'm writing. And in spring and summer, when the good fruits come, I will massacre blueberries, take out the cherries, annihilate the peaches. It's Pit City. And in the wintertime, it's more like pretzels and popcorn, little crunchy things that won't get my hands dirty and mess up my keyboard for the most part. I can't do cheese popcorn. I don't like that on my fingers. It's like, help. But this thing I think started when I was about 5 years old and discovered books and never ever stopped. It's just like, so I need snacks that won't make me fat.
Awesome. Okay. Dakota.
Well, I have a confession now because I love sugar, and when I'm writing, I get so absorbed in what I'm doing that a lot of times I will forget to eat, and I don't want to take the time to prepare something, so I jump up and I run and I grab Oreos. I know
Ooh.
terrible, but I'm with Winnie. It can't be anything that gets your fingers sticky because you're typing. But now what I do is I go on these 6-week writing sabbaticals where I like go into an Airbnb and I just write straight for 6 weeks. And so actually I've started dieting while I'm there because I have no distractions. So I'll be on a diet and I'll have pre-prepared all my meals, and they'll be vacuum sealed, and then I'll have these protein or meal replacement shakes, and then it doesn't take me any time, and I'm getting my nutrients and I'm eating right, and I lose all that weight so that then I can gain it back again with my Oreos.
Because you can't have just one Oreo. You have to, like, I will finish a whole sleeve.
I can't.
Dangerous.
Amber, we're sisters, because I wrote while she was talking, that Oreos might really be the once you pop, you can't stop for me. It's not Pringles, it's
cannot stop
Oreos.
And I'll ask my husband, I'll be like, will you bring me an Oreo? And then he comes back with one, and I go, really? Just one? You really listened to me and brought me just one? Go get the bag. Bring it here.
I have a 5 Oreo minimum.
Minimum. Oh, good. I thought you were going to say maximum. I was like,
No.
Okay, Kilby.
Well, just side note for me, the once you pop, you can't stop is Thin Mints, and I am honestly thankful that they're only available once a year.
Right.
I do stockpile them, and they don't last the whole year, but those are the ones that for me, like, wow, I could really, take it too far. For me, it's hard for me to keep my energy level right. Like I have to I do get hungry and I have to eat, but I can't eat too much or else I'll go into a food coma. So for me, it's like it's covered almonds. Like I love chocolate covered almonds. There are these really good like yuzu covered almonds and like mango covered almonds. So I'm all about the like some sort of like protein that's like zhuzhed up a little bit.
You ever had the lemon, like our Sprouts has these like lemon covered, I think they're almonds, and they're covered in like a sweet lemon on the outside. It's really good.
I haven't gotten the ones from they actually Sprouts might have the same ones I eat. There's ones that I eat that it's like that's exactly what it is. It's like a sweet lemon like shell like cream. It's so good.
So good. Like I was
Yeah.
sad when I found out that they were good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, I guess while we're on that really quickly, because Amber, did you want to mention your question that you?
Oh yeah. So Winnie was talking about how her best friends in the Bonko book, right? They're best friends with their complete opposites. Do you guys have any food pairings that a lot of people would cringe at or think were weird that you really like? For instance, I really do like my Oreos dipped in orange juice occasionally. Just a little, see? You just have to try it. I'm not saying I want it like that every time, but just a little dip in there. It's nice. Anybody else?
I'll just leave it open if anybody has anything they want to share in this one.
No judgment, even though I saw your faces.
So I do have a couple. So something that so I was a food, wine, and travel writer. I became a certified sommelier. And when you're a sommelier, people think that you're like super fancy and hoity-toity about wine. But the truth is, every sommelier I know drinks has a cheap wine. We call it our Tuesday night wine that we drink. That's like $10 a bottle that we love because we don't always get affordable wine. But the other thing I'll say about like serious wine people is that they will eat stuff like, you know, like Cheetos with a bottle of wine. So like Cheetos with red blend is delicious, and that makes sense both based on both of their flavor profiles. Champagne and potato chips make sense based on both their flavor profiles. So you know, I would encourage folks if something tastes good together, eat it. Don't feel like you can't. Like there's a lot of stuff that tastes good together that are unlikely bedfellows.
Awesome. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
I've definitely done the white wine potato chip trail. And I don't know, there's something about that in the summer, like a nice Pinot Grigio or something that's a little bit lighter. And the chip and it's hot weather. And that just seems to like, I don't get as dehydrated as I would if I was just sitting out on the beach drinking wine, which I don't recommend. Stick to vodka and fruit juice. You'll just go much farther.
I can't think of, you know, I'm sure I'll think of lots of things after we get off, but really, I just will drink soda with anything. I love soda, and I don't care what I'm eating it with, and I'll drink a soda with it. But as far as food pairings, I think like, I don't know, do people make peanut butter and potato chip sandwiches, or is that just me?
That's you, I think.
This is no judgment.
Again, orange juice and Oreos, I get it, but I think that's just you. I
That
haven't
actually
heard of that.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I would try it.
Yeah.
Like just the Lay's thin potatoes.
Just, no, it doesn't matter, just potato chips, you know, on top of the peanut butter and then sandwich with the bread. It's really good.
Makes it crunchy. It's like crunchy peanut butter with something else in it.
I love her though. She's like, I don't think I have any. Is that weird? Yeah.
Well, sometimes we don't think the things we eat are strange to other people, but I would try it though. That sounds good.
I would try it too.
Yeah.
So we'll ask the readers if you have any post in the comments any snacks that you like when you're reading or any.
All right, Susan said she loves peanut butter and potato chip sandwiches, so I take it back. Maybe you're not strange.
Who does? Who does?
Susan, she's in the
Hey,
reading challenge.
Susan.
And so yes, so thank you, Susan. And if anybody else wants to share odd things they like or whether anything we shared sounds good or awful to you, please let us know. Okay, let me see if I can close that window and not close this everything. Okay, awesome. Okay, so do any of your characters have favorite foods or drinks that are a big part of the storyline that you want to share? And follow-up question to that. Are they also foods that you enjoy? So did you kind of write that into your story? Okay. And Dakota, I haven't started with you.
All right, I'm gonna do a show and tell here because I have a character who in this particular story, the opening scene is in the double wide. This is a Dallas bar, very popular, that it has a trailer themed you know, ambiance, I guess. And so they call it the double wide. And they, you know, they serve drinks like the Yoo-hoo Yeehaw, and which they describe as a white Russian meets white trash. I have no idea what's in it, but that's what it looks like, and it's a really good. But there's also some wine in there, and the reason that I picked this one is because he and Kizzy Jane, it's a they're childhood friends, and they're both ready to kind of settle down, so they make a bet, and they decide to figure out who can meet their partner first. And so if Kizzy Jane meets Mr. Right first, then Ben has to pay for her wedding dress. And if Ben meets Mrs. Right first, then she has to pay for his rehearsal dinner. So they're constantly going on all these dates. And so on one, they actually go out together too to discuss how their dates are going. And they get to this Italian, really fancy Italian restaurant, and the spaghetti and meatballs is all about the presentation. And so it's like 3 meatballs, and Ben is like big. He's like 6'7", and he has a big appetite. And in Texas, it's not about the presentation. It's totally about the quantity. So he is super upset about the fact that he's paying high dollar for 3 meatballs. And so there's, you know, a fun scene about that. But anyway, so I guess that would be my answer.
Awesome. Winnie? All right.
So in the record series, this is Boogie Beach, which is book 1, but there's a prequel too. It's set in a bar on a pier out jutting out into the ocean near Daytona Beach. And basically Patra is a bourbon drinker, and she drinks Jack. In the prequel, Billy drinks Four Roses, which is another bourbon. The Magicals don't drink human alcohol at all because they don't catch a buzz off of it. It's not strong enough for them. So I have a lot of fun creating drinks, and for individual characters, they don't all drink the same thing. And usually each book has 1 or 2 drinks that's introduced. And I've toyed with the idea of making a cocktail book and trying to come up with some sort of a recipe to correspond with those individual drinks I've created in the stories, but I'm not sure I would probably sober up for a year to do that and get it right. But so I would say most of the time I'll stick with something that readers would be familiar with for the human people in that series, and then kind of branch into something interesting for the people who have additional abilities.
Yeah, there were some really cool the magic people in that one had some really cool drinks. Remember, it was one like multiple different alcohols, but it wasn't, anyway, it was a cool part of the book, but I can't think of
I think you're talking about the 12th tide, where there's 12 layers and each one
Yes.
spins a different direction.
yes. Yeah.
Before you drink
So,
it? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. If she doesn't pour it right, it can blow up, and because their alcohol is so different, I call it alchemy. If she gets splashed, or if she inadvertently spills some, or a drink, she doesn't pour the drink right and it explodes, it can hurt her, or it can make her do weird things. So she's got to gauge, you know, she's got to exercise a lot of intelligence so that she really understands what she's working with and put it together so that it doesn't hurt her. But at the same time, she pours the drink right, because she's in the entertainment business and she's serving at a bar to magical people. So there's a whole side personality to her when she's at work versus when she's being the keeper and uncovering all the dirt.
Great. And then Kilby, I know you mentioned you have a lot of food and drink. Do you want to share a little bit of that?
So you mentioned the book I wrote called It Takes a Villa. And as I was thinking about how to answer this question, I realized, wow, I really outed myself with my books, because It Takes a Villa takes place in Italy. I wrote another book called Looks Good on Paper that takes place in Italy. And I wrote another book called The Secret Ingredient that is about a plus size celebrity woman chef who cooks Italian, right? So like, I think that my preferred food is Italian food. I do love Italian food. It is at the top of the list for me. I have visited Italy a couple of times, and I have like stopped talking to my dining companion because I could not speak because of how good the food that I was eating was. Um, so I would say, in addition to just having Italian food being a theme, I think that part of what I really appreciate is sort of like Italian food culture, which is different from American culture, just in terms of the freshness of the food, people eating together, people coming together. That's a really big thing for me, and that's something that's really prevalent in my books and in my life, sort of like just coming together with friends and dining together in really great ways.
Awesome. I only read the one so far, It Takes a Villa, but I was just telling someone today, I said, the reason I read is I was like, I renovated a villa in Italy. It was awesome. Like, I'm never going to get to do that in real life, but I did it through a book and it was so much fun. And there was wine and lemons. So perfect.
Perfect.
So I very much enjoyed that book and look forward to reading some of your others. Okay, so before, does anybody want to share, and if you haven't already, did you prepare any pairings today to mention today about a character? You may have already talked about it if you want to remind us of that. And then maybe why you chose that. Anybody have any? I'll let that. I didn't miss anybody in the last question, right?
Well, Crystal, you sounded like you had some good pairings for each of them.
I do. I was going to let them
Decided to.
talk and see what they had to say first, and then I'd add my other two. So anybody today? Okay, come good.
Okay, in let's see which one it is. Yeah, it was this one in My Stubborn Texan. No, of course, no Southern book would be complete without sweet tea. And so there's a lot of sweet tea really across all of the books, but in this one in particular. And the Country Cook has a great recipe for Southern sweet tea. If you are interested, I put the link right there if you're interested. But the thing about sweet tea is that you have to drink it like that day, like the pitcher that day. And if, because it will start turning bitter. So unless you put some baking soda in it, and then if you put a little baking soda in it, it'll last 2 or 3 days. But for the most part, it's a make it every day kind of thing. And then we garnish it with lemon and mint. And so, yeah. And so you can eat that with, with anything, with your barbecue or really anything and everything, sweet teas. And of course, I already told you I like sugar, so so it's a winner.
Dakota, you'll have to come to Statesboro sometime because we have sweet tea in places, and then we have Statesboro sweet tea, which is like the most sugary, syrupy sweet tea you have ever tasted. So
I'm making plans. That sounds amazing.
Great, awesome. Winnie, did you have a pairing today that you wanted to share? If you haven't,
Well, the only pairing I really have in my books would be I've got a pair of pelican shifters in the record series, the Boogie Beach book I just showed you. And they always drink fish ale with anchovy crisps. And fish ale does actually smell fishy. They like it, the bears like it. I've got a variety of shifters. Cats will drink it. But it's sort of the salty that goes with the beer to encourage you to buy more beer, kind of.
smart.
And so it's really just a mercenary ploy. It's not actually good food.
It's like peanuts with, at the bar, correct?
It's sprinkles at the bar, they'll get you every time.
Yep.
definitely. Kilby, have you shared one yet?
So I have a pairing. So in my book called Forest for the Trees, Sierra the heroine makes these bacon bites. It's like this sort of like rolled up bready thing, and there's like some like spreadable cheese, but then you roll it up and it's bacon on the outside, and you bake them. They're really, really good. So it's bacon bites and bourbon drinks, which I say loosely. My preferred bourbon drink is a sidecar. I think anything with bourbon and citrus is delicious. So part of it is like bourbon is fantastic, nice to drink a lot of it, but when you drink a lot of it, you got to eat something. So that whole like, bacon bites, bourbon drinks is a really good pairing for me and for my characters.
Yummy. Sounds delicious. So I already mention, Kilby, what I went with for you. I was so excited when I found lemon. in that wine. I was like, perfect. And then Dakota, I've read a couple of your books, but my favorite was the very first one I read. If anybody hasn't read a Dakota book, they're all great so far. But My Daring Texan.
Yeah, so that was perfect for especially a convention that's got a lot of romance readers in it. You will enjoy that book.
Yeah. Well, I loved it, and I feel like the cowboy books all need beer, but that book had me very early on thinking Carly just needs some whiskey. Like she needs some straight up whiskey. She shouldn't drink it, but she needs it. So I went ahead and went with a whiskey and ginger, and a Asiago cheese. Asiago seemed pretty simple for the cowboys. Like it sounded like a good basic cheese. So
Oh, that's amazing. I love it.
it's fun. She didn't need. This girl. I was like, this girl needs some whiskey. And then Winnie, yours was just delightfully fun. I had no idea. I don't read the backs of books, and I had no idea there was an alien. I don't know what I was expecting. And so of course I was like, I need a margarita, and I paired your margarita with the manchego. So it was a good excuse. So you guys had delightful books. It's been so much fun. So I'm going to ask one more question. Let's see if we can squeeze this in. Have you ever read about or written about a certain food or drink and just had to try it? Something that you'd never had before? If so, how'd it go? Anybody want to share? I'll leave this one kind of open and then.
That's again one of those things that I can't think of. I'll probably think of afterwards, but I know there very often there will be places that I've never been, or those kinds of things, and you research and then you want to kind of go to those places. But I can't think of a food. Not me. What about you other girls?
For me, it's moonshine. I mean, if we're talking about food and drinks, I have a series that's set in Tennessee, and I did not have much experience with moonshine, but we were talking a little bit before we started. I have since really familiarized myself with peaches soaked in moonshine, and they're really, really good. So like now I'm like into fruit soaked in moonshine. I don't really drink moonshine, but I really like the moonshine fruit.
Well, I don't have I'm pretty much I will try everything, and there's very, very few things I don't care for. So it's not like I'm pining away. I mean, I haven't had a chocolate covered cricket, but I certainly would. But I will tell you a funny moonshine story. I went with I lost Mike a little over a year ago, but Mike and I traveled a lot, and we were in Hot Springs, Arkansas at a one of his contemporaries was retiring, and we went to this this was a big statewide organization, and it was packed. And the guy from Alabama who held the same level position rolls in and hauls 2 big cases out of the back of his trunk. And Mike says to me, he says, "You can go hang with Bryn a little bit." He said, "But don't you drink more than 3. I'm like, oh, okay. This man made moonshine in pomegranate and butterscotch and peach and apricot and chocolate. And I mean, it was very, very hard to pick 3. That's all
I was about to say, you were only allowed to try 3 then? How is that?
Well, it's not that Mike would ever lay it like that. He's just like, I know you don't like, I'm an introvert. So being in a big crowd like that, I'm already not comfortable. And he's like, if you don't want to be tripping over your shoes,
For your own good.
3 would probably be a good number for you. And I'm a full scale woman. I'm 5'12". So I am totally can float some alcohol, but the
Yeah, I was
moonshine,
gonna say 3 seems like a lot, but if you're 5'12", yeah, so 3, you probably get it.
and it was fabulous. And the pomegranate was to die for. If I ever find somebody who's making their own moonshine and they do pomegranate, I'm probably gonna marry him. It's just that good. At least right.
A lot of moonshine enthusiasts in this group.
Yeah, now I did think of something that I eat that other people might not, and that would be crawdads, the crawfish balls. I can remember, I guess I was in my early 20s or maybe even still in my teens when I went to my first crawfish bowl. It was very intimidating because they are bugs. They look like bugs. And then there's an art to peeling them. But now I can eat them really quick and they are so good. And I've missed, in Texas, of course, we had crawfish boils at our house. And I think my husband would get like 300 pounds of crawfish, and we'd have about 50 family and friends over, and just really have good time. And here in South Carolina, it's not as big of a thing, and it's also super expensive to get them shipped up here. So we pretty much will, during crawfish season, just make a trip to Texas.
Well, you can come on down to South Georgia because we eat crawdads. I do not.
No?
But my neighbor gets some at a place and she's like, come on, eat some crawdads. No, I don't. It's got face and eyes and staring at me. I don't do it. But you don't have to go to Texas. You can come right on down.
Amber just whipped out her Southern, and I'm about to die over here. I'm sorry. It's like she got real Southern for a minute.
Yeah, when you're talking about eating crawdads.
That's right.
Okay. Okay, so before we have kind of a wrap up, a couple of questions. Let's say one of our readers in the reading challenge would like to curl up for National Wine and Cheese Day with a glass of wine and some cheese. What book of yours would you recommend that they do that with? Recommend a book. And jump right in, whoever wants to take away.
For me, I would probably say My Spirited Texan. That's the one that started with the double Y with Ben and Kizzy Jane. And the reason is because she starts becoming interested in a restaurant owner who's super sophisticated and drives a foreign car and has a pinky ring finger and is, very, very knowledgeable about wines. And Ben gets pretty intimidated because he's just such a big old, rambunctious cowboy that likes beer and barbecue with all the fixins and, some foot stomping live music. So I would say that My Spirited Texan would be a good one for the wine.
And then Dakota, to clarify, because I accidentally started with book 2 in your series, they don't have to be read in order.
No, they're all standalone. It's the Bradford brothers of Honky Tonk, Texas. Honky Tonk, Texas is the fictional town, and each brother has a story. And if you go in order, the payoff is that characters from the previous books constantly, all 7 brothers are in all 7 books. They go in and out because they're brothers, and so they hang out. But you do not have to read them in order at all. They are all standalone. Great question.
So I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to go away from like my rom-com series and say my super, super steamy series is the one where you want to really curl up with a bottle of wine and some cheese and really like get that buzz going while everything else is flowing. So if I have a first book in my series called Snapdragon, it is a friends with benefits that turns into like, friends that grow feelings for each other. And it's a really, really, like if you're going to have that sort of like buzzed vibe, that would be a great book to start with.
Sold.
So I'm going to say, if you're looking for kind of a romance vibe with your wine and nice cheese, then I would suggest that you pull Harpy Gumbo, which is actually a book 2, but it works fine as a standalone. And it's set in New Orleans. It's got a lot of descriptives. It's the smells and the flavors and the everything. It's a nice escape book. But if you were looking for some long haul where you'd like to make this a habit and be curling up with your wine and cheese every week, then I would definitely say pick up Boogie Beach, because that's a thinking woman's book. It's funny and snarky and interesting, but it's got women that you want to go have a drink with, and it's got interesting dynamics and decision making. And I think that it's the kind of thing that a nice wine and a beautiful piece of cheese wholly supports.
So everybody's got some great books to read, so I hope you all wrote those down. Because again, I've read a book from each one of these ladies and they were fantastic. So I'm sure you'll love whatever they recommended. Okay, so a couple of standard questions we like to end the chat with. One of those is, first of all, where can readers find more out about you, your books? Like, tell us about your online presence, your social media. Where can people go to get more information about you or interact with you? Dakota?
Of course, obviously my website at dakotalacoy.com, but also this is a great time. I spend a lot of time on Instagram, and this is a great time to pop over there because I have a giveaway right now, and I'm giving my book Texan away, and so you just pop over there. But this ends in like I think it ends on Saturday by midnight. So make sure you pop over there and enter. But I spend the lion's share of my social media time on Instagram. I have accounts in the other platforms, but Instagram's really kind of where I go, that and my website. And I have a store there too. So I do spend time over there.
And I read that one too, and I am not usually a best friend sister trope. That's not my trope, but you did a fantastic job with it. So y'all want that book. Okay, Kilby?
So where I really hang out online is I have a readers group called Kilby's Corner on Facebook, and that's where that's where I really am, just like hanging out, just chatting with folks. Where to find out about my stuff and learn about my books, kilbyblades.com has a pretty good guide to like the reading order, and I'm pretty straightforward about what each book is about. Some of them are really funny, some of them are really just like sweet, not sweet in the sense of like not open door, but like just straight contemporary versus like really steamy stuff. So that's the best place to understand how steamy the books are. But something I can do is I can post, I do have a freebie in my reader group. So Snapdragon, the really steamy one I was just talking about, I will post a freebie so that folks can take a look at that if they want to. And I'll also post about my other books that are available in Kindle Unlimited for folks who want to take a look.
We had multiple people commenting about how much they really like Snapdragon. So just want to put that out. It's getting great reviews.
Thank you.
I know I saw several Kilby in the group, in our reading challenge group, that commented loving your stuff. And I was like, I don't remember anybody saying it takes a villa, but I will tell anybody, if you want to go renovate a villa down the Amalfi Coast, like pick up It Takes a Villa, because it will fulfill your dreams. So, okay. And Winnie, where can we find you?
Winnie is on, because I write with my name for my nonfiction and Winnie for my fiction. That's why I phrase that way. I'm not like one of those third person weirdos that you need to avoid. Please don't avoid me. But Winnie is most active on Facebook and Instagram, and me as JS Netwall I will write with it's meditation, it's guidance for learning how to help yourself with your stress levels and your anxiety levels and all that stuff. That's under Cosmic Pocket, and that's on Facebook or on the website.
Awesome. Okay, do you have any upcoming releases or appearances readers should be on the lookout for? Anybody want to, maybe we'll go reverse order. Winnie?
I'll be at Orlando Reads Books in October, in Altamont Springs, which is just basically Orlando mushes into Altamont Springs, and they grew them all, and it was very steamy. I think it is October, I don't know. But I'll pop on the Facebook page after the live, and I'll throw that date in there if anybody's interested. It's a good one. It's a 4-day conference. They have good activities for readers. They also do some things for writers. So it's just kind of a nice relaxed one if you're looking for something and you're local to Florida. And then I'll be post at Coast Magic in February. And coming out writing wise, I have another nonfiction, which is going to be expanding your piece, and it's going to be 90-ish days of their intentions. They give you action items and things to think about, and then a journal prompt if you journal. So that should probably 4 to 6 weeks that one will come out. And if you're on my newsletter, that's the best way to find out about that.
That sounds really interesting. I might need to get a hold of that one.
Okay. Hit me up. I have a excerpt of the preceding one. If you want
Okay.
the
Yeah.
layout, whatever, I can throw that in the chat too. I'm happy to have people grab that, and if you're not in my newsletter, I'll pop to sign up, but you know,
Will do.
okay.
Gilby, what you working on? Where are you gonna be?
So my publishers unfortunately have really short pre-orders, so I have a ton of stuff that's coming out that I can't tell you about until like 10 weeks before it comes out. So stay tuned for that. But in terms of where I'll be, so I live in California. Next week I will be at Steamy LitCon in Anaheim, which is a really fun one, partially because it's a great conference, but also because you get to go to Disneyland afterwards. Yay. I will also be at Rare Edinburgh in the beginning of September. And for folks who are both readers and aspiring authors, I also teach classes. So I'm teaching a master class actually this Friday at the Contemporary Romance Writers Conference on how to uplevel your author career. So when you go to my website, I have a section that's like reader events, but author events. So depending on where you are in your journey, you can find me at both kinds of events.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Dakota.
Well, the next place I'm going is the Coastal Magic Conference, and if there's anybody out there who has not is not signed up yet, I want to tell you that one of the really nice things that I love about Coastal Magic is that it is small and intimate. There's like I think it caps out at like 250 attendees, so make sure you don't wait too long to sign up. But what's really nice about that is that because it's so intimate, and because of all these chats that we do in advance, we get to know you and you get to know us, so that by the time we get there, we're all like buddies and there's no awkwardness, and it's not like thousands of people. And you really do. If you have not been, I just really want to encourage you. It is a great conference.
Second.
Yay. Well said. Absolutely.
We agree. Our favorite. Okay, so huge thank you to y'all for hanging out with us tonight and talking about National Wine and Cheese Day. Thank you for sharing all of your yummy pairings. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in. We appreciate you spending a little of your time with us. If you haven't checked out Coastal Magic yet, you can do that on the website, coastalmagicconvention.com. You'll find all of our important details, including featured author listings, registration info, reading challenge details, and more. And be sure to check back next month for our August CMC chat. Thank you, and have a lovely rest of your night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sisters.
Thank you.